Hello, I'm Jim Manning, author of Patriotism, Unhinged, which is available worldwide through online retailers. This is a special day. This is a day that I've been waiting for a long time. I've been studying the Kennedy assassination for well over 50 years. And for people that aren't familiar with me, I will say and tell you very quickly that when I was a young Marine, I saw evidence at Headquarters Marine Corps that would exonerate Lee Harvey Oswald from any charges that he was a shooter in the Kennedy assassination. For a long time, I didn't tell anybody what I saw, but eventually in 1968, told Jim Garrison, started to tell Jim Garrison. He stopped me, told me to call him back because his lines were compromised. Call him back in 2 weeks. And in the time between those 2 weeks, the local newspaper here in Virginia, the Virginian Pilot, where I live, had an article that appeared with a picture of Jim Garrison, and it mentioned my name 2 or 3 times and talked about the discussion I had with him, my invitation for him to come to Virginia to speak at Old Dominion College, which he accepted. And when I started to tell him what I had seen, he stopped me abruptly and said, call him in 2 weeks. His lines would be clear then. At any rate, a few days after the article appeared in the paper, a man threatened my life. It took me a long time to find out that this man was a CIA contract agent, the best friend of Frank Sturgis, who was from this area originally. Through the years, I tried to get more information about the assassination in every way that I could. But I finally came to the conclusion that I had enough evidence to exonerate Lee Harvey Oswald, and so that's what I put out, that information. But along the way, I ran into, by accident, the information called regicide. Now that came out in 2002, and the information was from a very high man in the Central Intelligence Agency, Robert Trumbull Crowley. They called him the Crow. And he was afraid that when all the information would finally get out on the assassination, that his children and their children and their children would have to hide or change their name or something. He wasn't sorry for what he did, but he wanted to make a clear understanding of why they did what they did. And so with that, he gave the information to a writer who wrote a book called Regicide. And in that book was the actual evidence that had been secretly taken out of Langley. And it included things like the minutes of the meetings that were held on the assassination. It was the statement of policy that was used to back up the reasoning behind why they killed him, and some other issues that would have proven that it was real. Now, these things, some were marked secret and top secret, confidential. He had taken them all out of Langley and had them hidden. And he made arrangements with the writer, Gregory Douglas, who he knew would not give the information back to the CIA. Trumbull Crowley died. He wrote the book. And when the book came out, it was seized at the publisher's offices. And it was seized at the bookstores that that the publisher had sent them to. And so very few of them actually, of the 10,000 that were printed, actually got out into the public. For years, you couldn't get a copy of it. I myself hunted for over 2 years, and when I finally found a copy, it cost me $300. I needed the copy because I knew that I was going to try to get the truth out, and I had to say and show what it was. After studying the information for a number of years, I finally came to the conclusion that I knew who started it, why they did it. That was the second phase of my interest in it. And but I never did say who I thought the shooters were. And the reason I've never said that is because it was a turkey shoot that day. There were plenty of people with guns. Most of them have silencers on them. And there were 2 teams at least, and possibly 3, who were operating that day, and one team didn't know much about the other 2 teams. So in 1996, on a visit to Blockbuster Videos to get a couple of movies for the weekend, I saw that they were selling, up at the counter, they were selling videotape of a confession made by a man named James Fowles. And seeing as how I had a high interest, I bought one of them. I took it home and I watched it, and I was amazed at the accuracy that this guy had in terms of answering the questions of the gentleman that was interviewing him. He would answer the question, and then he would add on minute details that somebody who was faking it wouldn't do that. I guess over the period of the next year, I may have watched that thing 25 or 30 times, looking to make a decision on whether I thought he was correct or not. In that confession, he talks about being a driver for a mafia man in Chicago. It's called the Outfit. Some of the outfit used to go to the races, the car races, and Mr. Fowles was a car racer, and they liked him, and so one of them approached him about being a driver for him. He had a background of having been in the army in Laos, and so being in the outfit wasn't something that he was afraid of. And so that began his long 28-year career with the CIA and the outfit. He was a contractor in terms of the CIA. In other words, he didn't work there every day, but on certain assignments they gave him, he would go complete the assignment, get paid. He was paid through the United Fruit Company under the name of Colonel Falter. Now I decide to write a book, and I put the book up for sale. It was self-published so that I owned all the copyright and nobody could close the book down. And so I understood that in order for anybody to know anything about the book, I would have to reach them in some way. And I decided to do that with YouTube videos. I was very surprised by the response, because it indicated there were lots of people who did not buy into the fairy tale of the Warren Commission. In regards to naming shooters, I've always felt that anybody who said they knew who the shooters were was guessing. I mean, if you weren't there, you didn't see it, how would you know for sure who they were? Due to some photography, we were able to find out some of the shooters, but we didn't know if they were hitters or not. Just because they were shooting, and there was holes in signs, there was holes in cement, there was holes that a lady saw looked like a little snake running in the looked like a snake or a mole or something going through the grass. There were lots of shots. In fact, I believe there were probably, as Leroy Blevins worked on it, there were probably 13 shots altogether. At any rate, James Fowles sat with me, and he started to tell us all the things that he had done in the 28 years. He wasn't just a driver for the outfit. Fowles contacted, through an intermediary, contacted me, and he had been seeing some of my YouTubes and thought that I was being as honest as possible and as close to the reality as he believed it was. And so I was surprised that it was me that he chose, but I took him up on that, and I went to Lincoln, Illinois, and I sat with him for 4 to 5 hours and questioned him. He answered every question I asked him. He didn't hide anything, and he had partially told a lot of this to people, but never indicated that he was responsible for any of the murders because of the no statute of limitations on murder. Today, we're going to pick one of the things that he told us about that was a little surprising, and it will be something that will surprise everybody. We're talking about Chappaquiddick, because we were there on the 18th and 19th of July, and that was the anniversary of what happened in Chappaquiddick. Because of the timing, we thought that we would do this video on what happened to Chappaquiddick, and soon we will be telling all the things that he told us, and especially everything on the killing of Jack Kennedy. We're going to now show the interaction between him and I when it came to the Chappaquiddick events. I'm going to jump now to the general feeling that the CIA had that no Kennedys would ever be president. Yeah. And although it wasn't the CIA in charge of the Robert Kennedy assassination, they were complicit in it. They had a couple of people there watching it and so forth. But J. Edgar Hoover was calling the shots on that one, as well as the Martin Luther King one. And then of course we have Ted Kennedy. Now, Chappaquiddick, I guess, was designed to stop him one way or another from being a candidate for president. Right. And can you tell us a little bit about who was involved?
Yes. I was in Florida down there, and Frank Sturgis come by the house one day, and he said, "Jim, you want to back me up?" And I said, "Sure." So I just went out and got in the car and took off. He said, "Let's go." Frank and me got on the plane. We flew up there to Boston, and we was on the plane, looked over and said, "You never asked me what we're going to do." And I said, "Hell, I don't care." I said, "You got my back." I said, "You bailed me out many times in trouble." And it's like I mentioned in the first interview, Frank Sturgis bailed me out of trouble in Mexico, and it wasn't jail that he got me out of. And so anyway, whatever Frank wanted to do, I always had his back. So we got up there, they found out what we was going to do, and then Hunt was there. Hunt met us there. And so anyway, the story goes where Ted was supposed to bring Mary Jo out there to meet us. And the story was that Ted was to tell her that somebody wants to talk to you. But she had no idea she was going to get killed. And Ted didn't have no idea either. And so he brought her out there. Frank Sturgis, he put his hands down to her side and he held his hands flat. If you grab somebody like that, you leave an imprint on their arm and you kill them. The blood stops circulating. But laying it flat, you don't leave no marks. So he's holding the girl's hands, her arms are by her side, and Hunt put the bag over her head and suffocated her. The girl was dead when she was put in the car.
Okay.
My job was to drive the car off the bridge. And the water wasn't as deep as they thought it was, or I thought it was. But before I got in the car, put the window down, because underwater, you don't know if you're going to get it down or not, if it's going to work. So anyway, I had the window down, and the car didn't sink all the way. And so she was in the back seat, and a lot of people alleged that she was in the back seat because there was air back there and she was trying to breathe all she could. Well, if Ted Kennedy could, big as he was, if he could crawl out that window and get there, there's no reason that Mary Jo couldn't come out this window behind him
Sure.
and survive. And he should have seen her get out first. But she was already dead. She was in the back seat. But there was no water in the lungs when they ran the autopsy on her. So they know she didn't drown. But anyway, she come out there. Frank held her arms aside, held the bag overhead. They killed her, put her in the car. I got in the car, drove the car off the bridge. Before we drove the car there, Frank got on top of it with a ball bat, and he beat a few dents in the top of the car because the car was supposed to turn over, but the water wasn't deep enough for it to turn over when we were going in. And then you can see the roof of the car still up above the water when you look at it in the pictures. Ted Kennedy had been talking too much to Mary Jo, and she knew too many of the secrets of the CIA and everything else in the government. So it's time to shut her up.
What did Kennedy do right afterwards, since he didn't know it was coming?
Well, he was all shook up, and he was still suit. He had a brand new suit he just bought. I think he paid $1,250 for the suit, he said. And so he didn't want to get it wet. So Frank Sturgis grabbed him by the shirt and the suit and said, "You piece of shit." He threw him over in the water, and Kennedy went under, and Ted went underwater, and he come up and he was soaking wet. And so I left with Frank Sturgis. We went in one car, and Ted Kennedy and Hunt went in another car. I guess Hunt was telling him what was going to happen if he opened his mouth, he talked, or he said anything. And he had to wait so many hours to go to the police about it because we were still on the island, and we couldn't get off the island until after 6 o'clock. Because that's when the ferry started running.
I see. And
that's why Ted was delayed in going to the police, because Hunt told him not to.
The day before, where did you stay that night? Were you like in a hotel or?
No, we stayed in the car that night, Frank and me.
Okay.
We got rid of her, and we stayed in the car, parked the car in a dark, secluded spot, and we stayed there until time to get on the ferry.
I gotcha. Now, having seen that from his own lips, I can tell you that we understood that there was a portion of why he did this was having to do with him meeting his maker. It was apparent that to us, that he had no reason to mislead us in any way because this is what he wanted to do. The implications of this for Ted Kennedy and the Kennedy family, we're sorry to have to bring this up this way, but it's history. And if we're ever going to get to the total truth of the deep state, we're going to have to hear these things, whether we like it or not. In many instances, there's a connection between the deep state and the gangsters of the mafia, the outfit, and other groups, because the dirty work, they can pass on the dirty work to those groups and say that they couldn't possibly have been involved in that. Once again, this is another story of the deep state, making sure that the Kennedys would never be president again. This will take a lot of people, I know, by surprise, but you haven't seen anything yet.